Hello, and welcome to today's EHS Today webcast, Making Safety Personal in a Time of Social Distancing, and it's sponsored by Appspace. My name is Dave Blanchard. I'm the editor-in-chief of EHS Today, and I'll be moderating today's webinar. But before we begin, let me just briefly explain how you can participate in today's presentation. If you, at any time you're having audio difficulties, or maybe the slides aren't advancing, simply hit your F5 key to refresh your webcast console. If you're running pop-up blocking software, you will need to disable it to view the webinar. If you have any other technical difficulties during today's session, please press the question mark help button, which you'll see in the upper right corner, and you'll receive assistance in solving any other common issues. Also, the webinar technology that we're using will allow you to resize the presentation. To do that, click the maximize icon in the upper right corner to enlarge the window. We welcome your questions during today's event. To submit your questions, simply type your question into the Ask a Question window on the left side of your screen, and then make sure you hit the Submit button. We'll answer as many questions as possible during the Q&A session that will follow the main presentation. But please feel free to send in your questions at any time as soon as they occur to you, and we'll add them to the queue. And please also be aware that today's session is being recorded, and it will be available on the EHS Today website within the next day or so for you to review. We'll contact you by email just as soon as that archive is available. When this webinar ends, please take a moment to complete the feedback form that will appear on your screen. And now, let me explain a little bit about Appspace, our sponsor. Appspace can help your organization to meet safety challenges of the post-pandemic workplace. Appspace's unified platform helps create an exceptional, connected, and safe workplace experience with simple communication and space management tools. With features like digital signage, an easy-to-use employee app, space reservation, visitor registration, and communications integrations, employees can easily access all of the information and space management tools that they need, whether they're at work, at home, or on the go. And let me now welcome today's first speaker. Lisa Viscuso is a workplace communication professional at Appspace. She has over 10 years' experience working for SaaS-based companies with a specialty in marketing. As product marketing manager, Lisa focuses on the industrial sector, positioning, messaging, and branding of the Appspace platform. And with that, I'm going to turn it over to you, Lisa. So welcome, Lisa. The floor is now yours.
Thank you, Dave, and thank you, everyone, for joining us today. Today, we're going to be talking about making safety personal in a time of social distancing, and I'm glad that everyone is here. So before we jump in, I do want to introduce to you our other two fabulous speakers today. First, we have Patrick Carroll. Pat's work in the safety field began as a frontline supervisor with safety as a collateral duty, and now involves advising senior leaders on strategies to reduce risk. His experience includes over 20 years in the corporate safety departments of 2 Fortune 200 companies and the federal government. Pat currently works as an independent safety and health consultant, specializing in strategic safety planning, safety leadership workshops, and motivational speaking. And a little fun fact about Pat, in his free time, when he's not working on the safety front, he likes to umpire Little League baseball and softball games. And then next up, we have Anna Neiman. Anna Neiman is the Director of Content at Appspace. Anna is a workplace communication professional with over 15 years of experience in the field of visual communications. As the Director of Content at Appspace, she fuses EHS experience with a deep understanding of core trends in digital media to create tools for strategic safety communication in the workplace. Anna also holds a 30-hour OSHA certification, and she has a graduate degree in film studies. And a fun fact about Anna, in her free time, she is currently writing a book about Russian cinema. And my fun fact while we're at it, I have become a TikTok master with my little 7-year-old over the past year. So before we jump in, let's talk quickly what we're going to be going over today. So first, I'm going to talk about the current state that we're in, followed by, talking quickly about what are soft skills. Then I'm going to kick it over to Pat, and he's going to talk about how to make safety personal. And then Anna will conclude us with talking about how to build a communication strategy. So let's dive in. So in the past year, EHS leaders everywhere were faced with unprecedented challenges brought on by the pandemic. Working became very different for everyone. New directives like new hazards, new regulations, and new controls have been put in place. Some folks transitioned to working from home, while others remain working in facilities. And I'm sure a lot of you are nodding your head right now. For those working in facilities, shifts may have been reduced or a change in schedule due to building capacity limits and so on. And these are really just a few examples. But as a result of this, company culture really has suffered. Employees feel disconnected from the company and especially from each other. So I found some of these statistics that I'd like to share with you today. These are sourced from a recent SHRM study as well as from Safety and Health magazine. So 46% of employees surveyed feel less connected to their company than they did before the pandemic. 42% say that company culture has diminished. 50% feel less connected to their colleagues. And lastly, 32% would like more communication from management. So when I saw these statistics, I thought they were very eye-opening to me, but they do really provide a good baseline on the current state of what employees are feeling right now, and especially as folks are transitioning back into the return to work phase. So that really brings us to the topic of soft skills. So let's talk about this and what are they exactly? So soft skills are commonly referred to as the people skills, the non-technical skills and traits that an individual has. Additionally, it's social skills, communication skills, and emotional intelligence. And so what does this mean for you during this unique time? And I want you to keep this in mind as you hear more closely from Pat and Anna today. So as returning to work is still in motion, you have the ability and control to connect everyone back together. For those that were once working remote, who are now returning to work, and for those that were always there, you have this opportunity to restore and maintain the feeling of belonging and personal accountability, and really that personal connection. You also have that ability to bring things back to the way they once were. And you can do this by simply using soft skills. So by making things more personal, you can influence this change, which ultimately will help build relationships and achieve goals, which really is a win-win. So again, I want you to keep this in mind as you hear from Pat and Anna. And actually, I think this is probably the perfect time to turn it over to Pat, who's going to dive a little bit deeper and focus on how to make safety personal. So the floor is yours, Pat.
All right, thanks, Lisa. Yeah, it's those soft skills that allow us to make safety personal. Sometimes we think those soft skills, we just kind of learn those as we go. And yeah, maybe to an extent that's true, but reality is that we got to know what those soft skills are. We have to practice some of those. But before I talk about some of those soft skills, I want you to imagine this scenario. You're a supervisor, it's January 2020, and you get promoted to safety manager. And you're promoted in part because of your experience and your knowledge of the operation. But not only that, management has recognized a soft skill in you. Yeah, your ability to relate to other coworkers, to build relationships. They like that. They think that's a perfect fit for the safety manager job. And you're excited. And you have a vision of where you want to go and what you want to do as the new safety manager. And then 2 months go down the road, then all of a sudden we take this gut punch. We're hit with a pandemic. Now, all of a sudden, you're thrust into a situation where you've got to manage by edict. You've got to manage the emergency. And so you go look for your emergency action plan, but nowhere in there does it say pandemic. So what do? We rely on what we've done in the past oftentimes, and that is managing by edict, managing through command and control, authoritarian leadership style. And that's what we rely on. That's where you find yourself. So making safety personal, so what kind of reaction do you think you get by managing through edicts? Yeah, you're right. You'd get that kind of reaction. You know exactly. 1 year into this, if we're still managing by edict, managing by command and control, we're likely to have a lot of disgruntled employees. And we heard the statistics that Lisa shared with us. 46% of employees feel disconnected. 46% more feel disconnected today. So what do we do to reconnect with them? What do we do to change that reaction? Well, there's no silver bullet, but making safety personal to me has 3 key components. Number 1 is vision. Where are you going, and will they follow? Number 2 is knowledge. What do you need to know to get there? And number 3, heart. Leadership from the heart. I mean, everybody knows what's important to their boss. They know by how they act. And if they're leading with their heart, they'll know. Let's talk about each one of those. Making safety personal through vision. Where are you going, and will they follow? And when you think about successful leaders, they lead with empathy, humility, determination. They're persistent. They persevere. I mean, these are the people we want to be around. But when you think about the most successful leaders, they have one thing that sets them apart from other leaders. They have a vision. What's your vision for the next 12 months, 2 years, 3 years? Have you ever thought about having a vision? Maybe not. But I bet you have a slogan somewhere. I bet you have a slogan up on your wall in the factory or at your warehouse that says, safety is number 1. Safety is priority number 1. Safety works here. I challenge you, if that's the case and that banner is up on the wall collecting dust, I challenge you to turn that into your vision. Bring it to life. Never miss an opportunity to talk about it, and talk about it with enthusiasm and passion. Do you believe zero is possible? If you do, then talk about it every chance you get. And never miss that opportunity to talk about it. Vision. You may not have a vision today. That's okay. But this is your perfect opportunity to go out to and reach out to your employees to say, hey, what do you think about safety? Where do you think we should go in the next 12 months? I guarantee you, if you do that, you'll get some common themes that fall out of those conversations. Let's go to the second key component, making safety personal through knowledge. You have to know what they want most. Dale Carnegie said it best in his book, How to Win Friends and Influence People. Selling is about influencing somebody to do something you want them to do. And the only way to do that is to know what they want most and show them how to get it. Or in our case, show them how safety can help them get what they want. But to do that, we have to be good conversationalists. We have to be more interested than interesting. We have to ask them questions that they want to answer. And it doesn't matter who you're talking to, whether it's a CEO or a frontline employee. Now, if you asked me today, hey, Pat, what do you like doing? I mean, it's early May, springtime. If you asked me, I'd light up like a Christmas tree and say, you know what I like doing? I like umpiring Little League Baseball. Oh, is that right? So that means you wear face protection, chest guard. Yeah, shin guards. Yeah, absolutely. So that's like PPE. Yeah. Hey, Pat, Would you mind talking about PPE and the importance to you in your life at the next safety committee meeting? Yeah, I would. Sure. You've got a couple of things here when you do that. Number one is you've connected safety with something I want most. And not only that, you've labeled me as a PPE expert. You've set an expectation for me to live up to. I just mentioned, it doesn't matter whether you're talking to a frontline employee or the CEO. I'll give you another example. I was meeting with the director of HR a few years ago. It was just a coffee meeting. I didn't know where this conversation would go, but I found out what she wanted most. See, they had just gone through a Gallup survey of their employees, and they found out her department had the lowest scores in the company. And she was tasked with improving those employee engagement scores. I said, Helen, I can help you with that. Safety can help you achieve what you want most. And we worked together over the next year. We set up a safety leadership program. We set up safety committees. We conducted training. We engaged. And guess what? She succeeded, in part because I showed her how safety could help her get what she wants, know what they want most. And number three, making safety personal through heart, leadership from the heart. You know who this is, right? Mother Teresa. What did she know about safety? What did she know about leadership or management or finance or supply chain? I don't know, maybe nothing. But we knew beyond a shadow of a doubt what was important to her. What was it? The poor? Not just any poor. It was the poorest of the poor. We knew that. It was undeniable. We knew that because of her actions. She led with her heart. I mean, what's the first thing you notice when you see this picture of her? Her smile? I bet so. Yeah, people who smile like that, I'm talking about a heartwarming, heartfelt smile. They manage better, they teach better, they sell more effectively. Is smiling a soft skill? Is it a leadership skill? I think so. Do you lead with leadership from your heart, or do you lead through compliance? Do you talk about safety in terms of procedures, enforcement, violations, audits, inspections, investigations, disciplinary action? Or do you talk about the benefits of your safety program? Do you lead with your heart, or do you lead with compliance? If you're leading with your heart, you're making safety personal. And there's one tool in that toolbox that we don't use enough. A couple of brothers named Chip and Dan Heath wrote a book called Made to Stick, and it was about messages that we remember. And what they found out, they did the study and they found out, what all these messages that we remember most, they have common characteristics. They're simple, they're unexpected, they're concrete, they're credible, they're emotional, and they come in a form of a story. Tell a story. I can't think of a better platform than safety to tell stories. I mean, we love stories. We're wired for stories. We love listening to them. We love telling stories. Incorporate stories into your Make Safety Personal program, into your messaging. Some of the most successful organizations are learning organizations. They look back over a period of time, in our case, maybe over the past year, or maybe they look at an incident and they say, oh, what can we do to get better? If we had a breakdown here, what broke down? And they view it as an opportunity to improve. And that's what we need to do. Over the past year, if we've managed by edict, if we've used command and control and authoritarian leadership styles, maybe it's time to pursue a Make Safety Personal approach. And Anna, how would we communicate? What kind of communication plan would help us make safety personal?
So, Pat, and thank you. This is a great point that you're making. How to take that concept of making safety personal and actually bring it to all of your employees, reach them right where they are. And current moment is very different from all that we have experienced prior, right? People are all over the place. Like Lisa said, some employees feel disconnected because they're not together with their teammates. And what we do at Appspace, we help our customers in advisory capacity to construct that communication strategy to help them reach their employees no matter where they are. So, like we were saying before, in the current climate, this post-pandemic, when some returning to the workspace, some already been there, communication is more important than ever. And funny enough, when you think about technology, and we're a tech company, right? When you think about technology, you don't always think, oh, this is the most personal way to approach things. But yet what we have found in communicating with our customers, technology actually is what helped them make their message, their vision personable. So let's now talk a little bit about where we are right now. What is workspace and workplace like today? So let's look at our space. So obviously, as you can see, I'm at the office, but everybody's situation is different. Even my office has been modified, and I'm sure that your spaces in your organizations went through modification, right? The workstations perhaps have been distanced, hopefully 6 feet apart. Maybe in your break rooms, when your employees used to gather, the seats also have been spread out. Or some organizations just close their break rooms, right? Your employees are separated in different areas, right? Again, it may not be the familiar pre-pandemic layout. And you have instituted new protocols, cleaning protocols, business, the building entry protocols, visitor admission protocols. So the entire space, your layout is different. Now, what about your employees, the people, the teams? Again, some are working from home remotely, like Lisa, and some are still in the facility, frontline workers, perhaps. For those who are on the premises, in the facility, are their shifts still the same as they used to be? Maybe in order to, again, distance folks, you stagger the shifts, start times or break times. And let's face it, some folks did get COVID, they were sick, they had to be quarantined, or they've been exposed and they have been quarantined, and now they're just re-entering the workforce. So when we looked at this current state, we asked our customers, so what do you need now? This is very different. What do you need now? And what they said to us is that one of the most difficult things right now is effective communication, because they need to communicate frequently, far more frequently than before, because situation changes more often than before. And also, with that changed layout, now they have to reach different groups of people at different physical locations, be it at home, in the facility, or on the go. And with all the pandemic, the regular training, the regular safety interaction, like what Pat just described, didn't go away suddenly. You still need to train. You still need to have your safety meetings, committees. You still need to reinforce the PPE, wearing of PPE, be it the new mask up or the old, goggles and gloves. You still need to reinforce that training with your workforce. So how do we approach it? But of course, before we get anywhere, first of all, we need to know who are we speaking to, right? Who is your audience? So I would like to ask you now, who is your audience, right? There's a poll for you there so we can kind of place it in context. Do you have shift workers in your organization? Maybe you employ contract employees. Maybe you have people working from home, remote. Are you kind of organization that has drivers, a warehouse? Let's take a minute and answer that. So let's see. So what I'm seeing is that seems like we have a lot of folks who are on premises and are working in shifts. There are people in the warehouse. That means they don't sit at their desks, right? And there's a good quarter of people who are working from home. So they're not on the premises. They're obviously at their home offices. So with that in mind, let's move on to taking this information and creating a comprehensive communication strategy. How do we do that? How do we take those great ideas that Pat just shared and put them into action? And not only in the way that feels personal, but also connects all the employees across your organization. After all, we know that a successful safety program, or this matter, any workplace initiative, is the one that is supported throughout all levels of organization. And what's critical, and I never tire mentioning it, just like Pat pointed out, it has to look at a worker as a whole person, right? Not just as someone who performing a task. So how to go about it? First and foremost, just like with any strategy, consistency is the key, right? What does it mean? So we know that in the last year, our environment has been anything but consistent. There are so many different directives and guidances that were coming out one after the other, and you can't blame people for being confused. So now it's on us as leaders and you as safety leaders in organization to make sure that whatever information, whatever training that comes out of our organization is consistent and up to date. Because what we found also is that, and Lisa mentioned it, that 32% of employees would like more communication from their management in order to be comfortable in their workplace. So they want to be reassured day in and day out that, you as their supervisor, you as a manager, your organization knows exactly what those guidances are, knows exactly, and communicates exactly what the new rules of behavior are, or what's happening, what's the latest. They look to leaders in their organization for that communication. And that's why it's so important is to make sure that whatever messaging goes out, the messaging as what we call on brand. So Lisa, of course, if ever asked, can explain all kinds of interesting facts about being on brand. But what I mean when I talk about being on brand is that it's consistent with your company other communication. So what we find when we talk to our customers is that often what comes out of, say headquarters or CorpCom is always, kind of very manicured. But what that important information that happens in the particular location sometimes looks very different, or is not considering the actual location where it comes from, right? So it's important to connect all the communication across entire organization. And to do that, you need to engage all of your communication stakeholders. So you can say that you see the difference when the message of safety is supported by the top leadership, right? It's important to have that expressed commitment. It's also important to hear what folks, boots on the ground, what folks are saying, to create that kind of comprehensive, engaged communication, and help the top leadership, in this case, deliver that message. Another issue that was shared with us is, of course, getting information to all of the employees. So in the survey that we just did, you are saying that, okay, we have shift workers, we have working from home, we have drivers, we have a warehouse. So how do you reach everyone, no matter where they are? So that's where technology comes in. Perhaps in your organization, you have what some call safety TVs or digital signage, right? But what about those who are at home? They can't see it. Or what about those that maybe carry, mobile devices provided by your company, but they're constantly on the go? Maybe they're in the warehouse, other warehouse. To have a solid communication strategy, you have to take into consideration the channels by which you deliver your message. And so to look at that, I have another survey for you. And that survey is asking about the channels of communication that you use. So please answer whether it's email or maybe, like I said, digital signage. Maybe there are other signs like that, old dusty slogan that hangs in the facility, or what we actually mean, other safety signage. Maybe it's intranet or text messaging. What is it? All right, so I'm looking at the results right now and about to share them with you. And this is something that we often see. You say that majority of you communicates via email. So do people actually read those messages? Do they have access to the email? We find that at least in responses that we've collected, a lot of times folks say that employees don't open email. They don't read those messages. So, or the message is so long, they just TLDR and move on. So how, and especially let's think about how will you reach the deskless employee, the one in the warehouse? So what is important is to keep your communications relevant. And by relevant, what do we mean? Relevant to where they are, right? So let's say you have deskless workers, like I said. The messages that you may want to communicate to them in the morning are different from those that you want to communicate later on in the day, or maybe shift A has different needs than shift B, right? So you might want to day part your messages. You also would probably need to provide them with industry critical content. So we provide our subscribers with a subscription to premium content, which focuses on industry critical information. We also know that different locations may have different communication needs. Perhaps it's a regional need, or there are those remote employees who have different needs of communication and, again, different schedules. Or perhaps your workplace is a hybrid workplace where people sometimes work in the office, sometimes they stay at home. There are also, of course, different teams, and the communication between different teams is also should be specific. And let's not forget about reinforcing the message. It's important to take guesswork out of communicating that safety vision. So you probably have prevention reminders posted throughout the facility, but you know that you still have to reinforce the best practices, the hand washing, the mask wearing. So is there maybe a sign at the entrance of the building? Let's take it a step further. Let's maybe, if you do use digital signage, or if you do reach people at their desktops, share a video that will remind them of those very same safety precautions that you train them on. With the developed plan of communication, you can actually align the training that you regularly do with reinforcement of that training through other means of communication, through technology. Technology is great in reaching all of your employees. You can take one message and share it in different ways, in different channels across the entire workforce. Using repetition to ensure retention. What does it mean? You know that advertisers everywhere keep bombarding us with information. And the more we expose to the message, the more likely we are to respond to it, to remember it. So by the time you've seen something online, you've seen a commercial on TV, by the time you are at a vending machine, for example, you're going to buy that soda. So if you want a person to act on a certain task correctly, if you reinforce that message in different ways, on different channels, on your digital signage, on your posters, in those same emails, when they are at the point of operation, they will retain it and they will remember it and they will act on it. And this is where, again, digital signage can really shine and spread the information across the facility. So if I'm in the warehouse, I will get the same information and same communication as someone who's at their desk. And taking all that together, you should be able to make it easy for your employees to overcome the challenges of physical distance, of disengagement from being with their team, being on in the facility together, and rebuild your new post-pandemic safety culture. And I mentioned several times to this person that technology is important, but it's also important that when you build your communication strategy, to see employee as a person first and an employee second. Because even though there are hazards that are present at work, we need to look at the 24/7 behavior, right? So if you instill right behaviors while they're at work, they will continue that outside of their workplace. And another issue that we all face now is the mental health issues. So recognizing the stresses, recognizing the stressors, the anxieties outside of their workplace, acknowledging them will help you make your conversation personal, will help you reach your workforce. Pat was talking about storytelling. Visual storytelling is very effective when you're trying to speak to widest audience possible, especially when there's maybe a language barrier. So when you construct your communication, when you construct your messages, you want to keep them short and sweet, of course, but speaking through icons, through images is more effective than long email. We approach it with our premium content by creating very short videos. They're no more than 30 seconds. And we take those complicated OSHA regulations and federal compliance standards and lay them out in a colorful, easy to digest message that will stick because it's told through visual storytelling. And whatever you do, you can always make it fun, you can make it engaging, make it personal. So with all that, how do you do it? So here's something that I want to share with you that we make available to all our subscribers free of charge. They can download it and use it on the digital signage, on the mobile app, or on the desktop. This is what we call a stakeholder channel. You see these templates. So when I was talking about branding, making sure that your communication is on brand, using templates is very helpful because then your message is instantly recognized. You create that pattern, right? So what we did is we collected the most often used types of messages into one collection for our subscribers. And when we're thinking about it, we thought, hey, what will make it personal? And we suggest that not only we speak about hard safety facts and announce either meetings or other information, including pictures of family. Why do you asking a question? Why do you stay safe? So Pat and I were talking earlier, and we remembered this one fellow who, when asked why does he stay safe, he sent in a picture of his bike, his Harley, because for him, it was important to stay safe so his back is fine, his legs and arms are fine so he can ride his bike on the weekend. It's that same, personal connection to your life outside of work, 24/7. We also talked about involving other stakeholders, involving other employees, making them your safety heroes, making them experts, approaching them as experts. It's great to solicit their statements. What's your safety quote? You see that banner on the wall. What's your safety quote? What's your own vision? And then sharing those quotes with the entire team or entire facility, for that matter, even those who work from home. Or maybe, as we also talked earlier, you want to bring quotes from top leadership to the folks on the floor, show how important it is for the entire organization to stay safe. This is a great idea to keep safety personal by posting those quotes. And of course, recognizing your safety heroes. Employee recognition is critical in that, creating that connection, fostering that safety culture and workplace culture in general. Recognize those who perform, recognize those safety heroes. All the while keeping consistent look and feel and repeating the information in a different way to reinforce the message. So let's hope that with this kind of strategy, you can take what Pat was talking about and affect the disconnect, bring employees together, connect them with a comprehensive communication strategy. So, and with that, let's see what we learned today.
Great. Thanks, Anna. So thank you, Anna. Thank you, Pat. So in summary, what do we want you to walk away with today? We talked about how the workplace has changed. Workers are divided by location, some being at home while others are being on premises. And with that, overall workspace has changed. So there's less people, more rules, and that feeling of a divide. But now is the time to rebuild and reinforce your vision. So think about everything that Pat and Anna talked about here today. Use this opportunity to define and create your post-pandemic vision. Look for ways to bring everyone back together emotionally with that connected feeling, and simply use communication to do this. And then most importantly, recognize the whole person. You want to be sure to support mental health, as Anna touched on, and well-being. And of course, be sure to reach all your employees, no matter where they are located. And of course, make it personal. So we hope that you learned a lot today and you take all of these wonderful things that we talked about today with you moving forward. But I want to just make a quick mention here. If you have any safety consulting needs, Pat is available. So here's Pat's information. If you want to jot it down, you can simply reach out to him via email or check out his website for sure. I'll give a couple seconds here to write your information down. And then lastly here, at Appspace, we can help you solve a lot of your communication challenges and especially meet those safety challenges. We can help you unify your workforce with communication tools to help keep everyone connected with one complete platform. So to learn more about Appspace today, please feel free to visit us at www.appspace.com. Before we kick it over to the Q&A, I do want to make mention, if you click on your console in the event resources tab, we have a leadership assessment that we put together for you as a takeaway today. And it basically summarizes everything that we discussed today and can help you moving forward. So be sure to check that out. So I personally want to thank everyone for joining today, and a special thanks to Pat and Anna. And I'm going to kick it back over to Dave so we can jump into Q&A.
Great. Thank you, Lisa. And thank you to Pat and Anna for just a great presentation. So those of you in the audience, a few of you have already submitted questions, and we'll get to those in just a second. As a reminder, please take a moment to complete the feedback form that will appear on your screen at the end of the webinar. So I have a really good question here. It's a little bit long, but I think it's a great question. I'm the manager I'm an EHS manager in Tennessee, where we have a great deal of resistance to COVID vaccines, masks, and other pandemic-related safety protocols and equipment. I've tried to lead by example by being vaccinated, sharing info every day, keeping everyone informed. However, my views of CDC-supported science are not always shared by management and the employees. I am often the only one broadcasting the safety message. I have to be supportive of their choices, but I am in constant battle with misinformation, disinformation, and religious and political views. I just keep at it, never giving up, hoping that science will eventually prevail. So the question is, do you have any tips for dealing with and confronting misinformation in the workplace?
So who wants to take that, Pat? Would you like to go? I can take that as well.
I'll take a stab at it. We're in uncharted territory, right? None of us has ever been here before, so we're kind of learning as we go. But you said one thing that stuck out in my mind, and that was persistence. And when you think about successful leaders, they're persistent, they don't give up. Typically, when we find ourselves in these kind of situations, we fall back on what we know. And setting the example, being persistent, setting very clear expectations, and explaining why it's important. Are you going to get everybody? My guess is you're not. But how many allies can you build by setting those expectations, explaining why it's important, the benefit they get out of it, and then measuring and recognizing success, recognizing those behaviors that you want. There's no one way to do that, but I think the person who answered the question I think you almost answered your own question by being persistent. Just be persistent and continue, and you'll get some converts, some allies along the way, and recognize that you're probably not in this situation, not going to get everybody. I mean, Anna, I don't know if you have other ideas or something.
That's exactly right. Persistent and repetition, right? And this is where we talked about it a little bit earlier. There's so much different information, and people often get their information not from trusted sources, but from, Facebook or TikTok, where, there are other things than Lisa and her son that are less entertaining, right? Be that source of vetted information. Be that consistent source of vetted, to the point, information and guidance. Be that place where there isn't a doubt. Is it right? Is it wrong? Is it political? Is it my own opinion? Facts that are consistently distributed across all your communication channels in accessible, personable way will help you reinforce that message.
Okay, thanks, Anna. Another question, I guess, kind of coming from a different angle. This one's directed to you, Pat, but Anna and Lisa, please feel free to chime in if you have something to add. So the question is, what do I do if my employees are just scared to come to work? What if they don't want to come into the office or the facility or wherever they might be working normally? What if they don't want to come in?
Wow, man, that's another great question. I think it's an opportunity to reach out to them and ask them what it would take. I mean, everybody has their own level of risk that they're willing to accept. Some have a higher threshold, some have a lower threshold. Maybe this is an opportunity to reach out and do a survey, or maybe reach out, with a one-on-one conversation and find out what it would take to bring them back. And my feeling is that the more you reach out, the more conversations you had, you might find out that, maybe they're closer to coming back than you might think if you did this and this. And everybody has threshold in terms of risk. Find out what their threshold is and what it would take to get them back.
Okay, Anna, question is, well, it's a it's a pretty large question. How do I get everyone on board? I guess that's a rallying the troops kind of a question, but how do you make sure that you get everybody going?
Well, that's kind of a close to our first question, right? How do you get everybody together with kind of one message, right? How do you get everybody on board with your program, I assume in this case, with your safety initiative or with your compliance with, CDC guidance? So, our company has employees all over the world. We have folks in Malaysia. We have folks in Great Britain, in Australia, in Costa Rica. My boss lives in Vegas. I mean, we're on all the time. Somebody's working at our company. And some people are, again, at home, some people in their offices, some people are digital nomads. They're always on the go. They're always traveling somewhere. What we found is that you need to bring everybody together. Don't limit your message of safety just to those in the warehouse, just to those on the floor. Share the news, share the messages that, of course, are relevant to the entire workforce. Maybe doing it through intranet, maybe doing it through a mobile app that reaches all of the employees, but share those news. And that will make the stories of success. You probably have some success stories through this pandemic, share them. And that will make it personal, will make it accessible. And the folks at home will hear the same or read the same things that folks in the warehouse.
Okay, thank you. I have one last question that we'll be able to get in before we reach the top of the hour. But I would like to let everybody know, if you have a question that you'd like to ask our presenters, go ahead and submit it right now. And we'll forward all those questions on and they can follow up with you offline. So the last question for this live portion of the webinar, I'm a safety coordinator located in California. And as you may know, Cal OSHA has its own stricter rules that it implements for California employers. As we think of reopening strategies, we're looking to have workers that are vaccinated, since the work includes a lot of close contact with clients. But with the stigma around vaccines, how can we approach recommending vaccination?
Anna, you want me to take that?
If you would, go ahead.
Yeah. Well, you know what? How do you know? I think it's Anna talked about a communication strategy. I think it's important to explain the expectations, why it's important, and and Anna talked about tailoring your message to different levels of the organization, different shifts, different facilities, different teams, and using different channels. So I think it's, I don't want to say it's something as simple as that, but, I think using different, I call it the 10 by 10 communication rule. Tell them 10 times, 10 different ways, and they'll get it. So that's an approach I think I would take. And again, we're in uncharted territories. You're not alone, and none of us have ever been here before. So try something. And maybe it works to a degree, maybe it doesn't work, but we'll all learn from that. And I think that was kind of the point of this whole presentation, is looking back over the past year and saying, what do we learn from the last year, and what do we need to change going forward? So think about that communication strategy that explains expectations for the company, these expectations, why those expectations are important, what's in it for them, and use various channels of communication to get that message out. Again, measure and reward the behaviors that you want.
Great. Thank you, Pat. Thank you, actually, as we wrap up. I'd like to thank our speakers, Patrick J. Carroll, Anna Neiman, and Lisa Viscuso, and our sponsor, Appspace. Thanks, everybody. And on behalf of EHS Today, I'm Dave Blanchard. Stay safe and stay healthy.